I guess we'll start, shall we? This should hopefully be the start of something that will continue for a while, hopefully. I'm Connor. This is Liam. You may have seen Liam before. Hopefully you've seen Liam before, because I imagine you probably would have come from him. But yeah, we're hoping to rewatch all of New Who, which started all the way back in 2005, when I think we were both, 7, 8 years old?
Something like that.
And I guess before we sort of start on the first episode, how did you get into the show to start with?
I already knew of it, and I'd already watched some classic stuff before it came back, because my dad was a huge fan growing up, and my granddad was a huge fan. So I've always been aware of it, and then when it came back, I was like, well, I guess I'm in this, because Dad basically said, you're watching this, you're sitting down and we're watching this. And luckily I enjoyed it, so it kind of just spurned from there.
God, imagine if you didn't enjoy it. Imagine where you'd be now. You'd be in some office job doing something else.
Literally, yeah. All my interests kind of spurned from liking Doctor
Who. I mean, I have a sort of similar, introduction to it, except mine was very more sudden. I didn't know anything about it before it came back. All of a sudden, we were sat in the living room one Saturday night. My dad's flicking through the channels. And he goes, "Oh, Doctor Who's on. There's a new Doctor Who," and we put it on, and that was it. I mean, whether they regret that or not, considering how many people they had to get, and all the merch and how obsessed it became.
Thousands of pounds of action figures later, from when I got them all.
And because at this age we were still quite young in school, so there were still these kind of show and telly things. I don't know how much I cost my parents in printing off screenshots from the episodes.
Oh wow!
I vividly remember having a shitty paper picture of 9 and Rose kissing at the TARDIS.
Oh man.
So,
and everyone hated you.
Yeah, so this has been a big part of my life. I know it's been a big part of your life. We still enjoy it now, we're mid-20s now. So the show's been on for 16 years. Well, it's been on for more than 16 years, but for us watching it, it's been 16 years.
Yeah.
And so the first episode of the new series is Rose, quite simply, and I guess we'll get to overall thoughts now. Basically the plot is the Doctor shows up to a department store where he runs into his soon-to-be new companion Rose, and they have to fight off the first monster of the week. It's very simple, very easy, and obviously a very good jumping-on point. So what were your overall thoughts of the episode?
I hadn't seen it in ages, and I really, really liked it. I'd kind of forgotten how solid of an entry it is to as an opener, because it can't be too complicated, because you need to meet all these characters, you need to be introduced to the concept behind everything. I just think it's such a great kind of introduction, and there are a few moments I'm like, I'm going to roll my eyes and get past the cheese. It's very of its time in that sense, but I still think for the most part it really holds up.
Yeah, I thought the same. There was bits, and we'll come on to it, there was bits where the CGI does look quite dated. I mean, even the soundtrack a little bit is a bit dated, but in terms of
You're just listing all my dislikes.
Well, that's it.
To be fair, I did really struggle. I really had to nitpick to find multiple things I didn't like about it. So
yeah, that's exactly what I had to do. Because I was sat there halfway through the episode, I was like, I've not written any dislikes for this yet. I need to find some. But yeah, I thought this was, it was a great episode to jump in on. And, a lot of people, when they get introduced to Doctor Who now, a lot of people would skip this season. And, it became quite the meme to say, don't skip 9. And you shouldn't, because this is the entry point, literally, for, thousands of new fans.
Yeah.
And it does a great job of introducing everyone pretty quickly. I mean, even in the first 5 minutes, you already know Rose, her mum, her boyfriend, she works in the shop, something's going on. And it's all done super quick, and you're in. And there's no time to breathe with it. And yeah, overall, I mean, this is a great series opener to start with. It doesn't bog you down with who the Doctor is, really. It's a brief sort of, this is who I am. this is what I do, and you get a feel for what the show and the series will be. So I guess one question I'll throw at you now is, who did you most relate to in this episode?
Oh.
Like, do you obviously the companion is seen as the person that you're through their eyes. Do you get that sense of Rose?
Yeah, definitely. I can see why a lot of people would kind of relate to that. And it's like she's just working in a shop and she's eating chips, she's going to bed, getting up early. You know, she kind of has, you know, I think a lot of people do have like a single parent around. That seems to be, unfortunately, more and more of a common thing. So, oh, it's time in that sense as well. And yeah, I think they do a very good job of presenting this standard teenager in London having this standard life. And as like an entry point as well, I think it was very clever to have the Autons in it as the villain. Obviously, they never actually called them that on screen. But that's just enough of a balance to be a monster some people may recognise, because I know my dad did, because John Pertwee was his favourite. And obviously, that was his first story as well. So it's like, oh, I recognise that one, but it's not like super famous monster that dominates the episode and overshadows everything. And it's kind of creepy idea-ish enough for new people to get enjoyment out of it as well.
That's the thing, is that I was watching the first 2 minutes, I thought I forgot how creepy just the shop window dummy is in that basement and it's dark, and I was like, I would be horrified. I would have just frozen and I'd be dead. You know, I wouldn't have left. But yeah, there's a couple of points, you know, I wanted to touch on, and I know we've spoken about it previously. Because we were such Doctor Who fans, there are certain lines from this episode that have now become stuck in our heads. Because, you know, when we were younger, they made Doctor Who much out of everything, including a money box TARDIS. And you open the doors, and it would say different lines from the show. A couple of them is when Nine grabs Rose's hand and says, "Run for your life." That's just in my head. And then every planet has a north as well. That whole sequence there is just ingrained in my head.
That's such an odd pick for a money box quote as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I can't remember. See, the thing is though, I cannot remember any other lines from that money box. Those two. So I don't know what the other lines were, but it just seemed...
Yeah, I don't know if it was like generic TARDIS noises or something.
Yeah, so maybe they only had the first episode to make stuff from.
Yeah, I think they did, probably.
But, you know, it is what it is. And then when it comes to the characters, what did you think of Mickey?
Now, I love Mickey. I do. When he was just like almost not that affected by the fact that his girlfriend almost died, and he's kind of pretending to care about it a bit so he can go down the pub and watch the match. That was a moment I was like, oh wow, I don't remember that coming across as quite as dickish in the past.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I think you can just tell, you know, he's clearly like infatuated with her, which is nice. Unfortunately, that's bad for him in the long run. But yeah, he's a down to earth, decent-ish kind of guy. But he did have a few moments I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think he's made to look like someone you wouldn't want to stay for, which is what pushes Rose further to leave eventually.
Yeah, so that ending sequence when the Doctor's like trapped there and Mickey's like, leave him. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, well, I guess so that we don't tread on too many things, because I think Mickey's what I want to speak about later on. We're going to do some things that we found good about this episode and some things that we found bad. So what are your positive points for this episode?
Okay, my absolute number one was Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor, his performance. I think he had a really good balance of some serious moments. He had a bit of humour in there as well. And there's a lot of layers to it, and you can tell, you know, of what's to come. There's a bit of a dark past there, because I think the big highlight for me, his performance-wise, is that really nice speech he gives to Rose about the turning of the earth and everything with that. And he's like, oh, isn't life wonderful being here and now? And as soon as he stops talking to her and turns around and walks away, the look on his face is just, it all drops. The facade just completely disappears. And you're like, wow, this guy's been through some shit. And I love that balance that he brings to it. And he has so much of a presence as well, like when he's shouting at some orange goo, which is hilarious. I've rewatched Sparehead from Space recently, which is John Pertwee's first one, the first appearance of the Autons. Nestine consciousness in that is absolutely hilarious. It's just like these green claws that look so weird and bad. So I like the redesign for this as well. But yeah, Chris Eccleston, I think, was the shining star.
Yeah, I've written 2 aspects of him down on my good list. One is the Doctor's intro / the speech that he gives. So it's the whole, he just appears out of nowhere and saves Rose, pushes her out the door and says, I'm going to blow this place up, you better leave. And then, and then goes back in, which I think is just a great introduction to who the Doctor is in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But it also shows that dark side of him already, because he's going to blow up this place instead of trying to reason with them, which I know people seem to have forgotten now, that the Doctor will kill people. You know, whether it's the 9th, the 3rd, or the 13th, you know, they're still going to make those sacrifices if they need to. And then excellent performance in general, the way he can just switch from being very serious to just a bye, and then he walks off. You know, that whole thing. Even in the North, the lots of planets have a North section where they're arguing when they come out of the TARDIS because Mickey's head's mounted on the console. They're arguing about that, and then Rose is like, why is it a police box? And he gets all cheery and he's like, oh, I'll explain to you why.
Yeah. You can tell, like, oh, it's the explanation bit. I love this bit. He gets quite excited and giddy about it.
So there's still those aspects of the Doctor, and I think he does it sort of really well. And it's a shame that we only get this one season with him, and that he probably won't come back to live action. Probably not. But
I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, but it's good that he is coming back at some point, and I really like. You know, I didn't used to go back to series 1. You know, when I was younger, it used to be one that I wouldn't watch as often, but I found myself watching it more and more and realizing, hey, maybe 9's like my favorite Doctor. I don't know.
Good God.
But I mean, I like all the new Who Doctors, and they're on a straight line. But I'm like, 9 has this sort of gravitas to him that means he can do these darker moments.
And Chris Eccleston had such a difficult job bringing the show back after so long, because when it got cancelled and everything, it was like a laughing stock, and the BBC didn't really care about it, and it was such a kind of, it was viewed so badly, I think, and childishly, and he had such you know, an amount of pressure on him to kind of, if people hadn't taken to his Doctor, you know, I think they wouldn't have gotten series 2 or anything really. They wouldn't have got much further than that. So yeah, it kind of all comes down to him as well.
Well, I was watching an interview with him on the special features of the Blu-ray, and he was saying that he wanted to do the role because people often told him that he couldn't do a charming role in anything. He couldn't be a charming actor, and he wanted to prove that wrong. And he also wanted to be in a show for kids, because this is technically a children's show. But then he also said, you know, to make good content for children, if it's good content, adults will watch it as well. And I think that in this episode, it does feel like it's slightly more adult, because it is quite creepy at times.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's not too bad that the kids will see it and be like, no, too scary, I'm out.
Yeah, and then the Celine are only 3 weeks away, kids. You're going to get your chance.
The best episode with the Celine. One of my other good parts of this episode is something that is also quite a big name. Pizza Mickey. So this is when Rose goes to meet Clive and look at his shed of Doctor Who conspiracy, and Mickey sees a wheelie bin acting quite suspiciously. So he goes over and he opens it. Oh, nothing there. But when he goes to close it, he can't move it. Some dated CGI again. But he can't.
That's the only CGI I didn't particularly like, I think. Yeah. So that's not bad, considering there's a bit more into it.
And it does look plasticky. Plasticky looks like that when it's stretched, so it's not completely out of the realms. But yeah, it gets swallowed by the bin, and then they make a plastic replica of Mickey. And when Rose comes back, she says, "What do you want for dinner?" Maybe some pizza. And then he gets stuck on pizza for so long, and I just think it's just so weird and so out of left field. That whole episode has been quite serious. And then it just gets to this point where it's strange, and you can see that he's plastic, and you're like, how can you not see this is not a real man?
I do think it reflects really badly on Rose that she does not work out that her boyfriend's now plastic, and I guess that reflects badly on Mickey as well. If they can literally create a plastic replica of him, and he can like fool people.
And then it's turned serious with 9 when they're at the pizza restaurant, and he comes up with the champagne bottle, and he's like, and no one pays attention to him because they're having this discussion, and then they look up and they're like, oh, well, it's you, and then Mickey gets the cork shot into his forehead.
Oh, the sound effect of that as well.
And then, what I do like is the twist on the expectation of, you expect this woman to scream when 9 pulls their head off of Mickey, and he's there, and the head just says, "Do you think that'll stop me?" And then the man screams.
I think that effect looked really good as well. Him holding the head there.
Yeah.
And that man is, without a doubt, the best character in the episode.
it's just a great sequence from when she gets into the car to when the head melts on the TARDIS console, and it's just amazing to see how they managed to work this, because clearly the Autons know that Rose knows the Doctor. They're trying to get to him that way, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, that does show a level of intelligence to them that I thought is cool.
Yeah. So what else did you find good in this episode?
I'd already spoke about it really at the start in my summarization, but just as an introduction to the show, I thought it was really good. A very good blend of tone for the most part. And it's something like, I hate the bin burping after it.
Yeah.
Always Mickey. That takes me out of it completely. I can just about get by with it after that. So there's a few kind of moments like that, and the hand going about, like, oh, that sequence. I used to enjoy that sequence. I think now I'm like, Jackie just so happens to put the hairdryer on when they're having the fight. But again, I can look past that. But overall, it's a really good blend of tone. The pacing I thought was fantastic in this one in particular. It flew by. I thought it'd been about 10 minutes, and I checked the time. It was like 24 minutes in. It was like, oh Jesus. And yeah, just as a setup for the series and this reboot, I think it's really excellent.
Yeah, that's actually we watched this year's New Year's special, and comparing it to this episode is a lot faster. Things happen a lot quicker. You rarely have time to sit down with these characters and have a moment with what's gone on. So I think that works for it. Also, I put the use of practical effects. Obviously, we've mentioned about the dodgy CGI. I feel that there is the use of some good practical effects in this, whether that's Mickey's fake head that melts in the TARDIS, whether that's the Auton hand that is attacking everyone, because that also shows some pretty good acting. The fact that they can make that seem realistic.
Yeah, Chris Eccleston,
yeah, exactly.
That's good.
And then even the Autons themselves, where they're their whole body, they're not some CGI monster. So the effects are really good, and the use of the London Eye as the location of the alien. It's a good use of surroundings and cost-cutting measures. It makes it feel real, and it makes it feel like this could happen, tomorrow. It's real, really.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen tomorrow with how the world is. So.
Yeah. Well, let's not dwell on the
Doctor Who escapism. Yay.
But so we'll go on to sort of some of the negatives for this.
Oh, I had one last positive.
Oh yeah, go
on. Like the aesthetics of it and the direction of it. I thought, like you said, the Autons looked great. The design of the TARDIS, the inside of that, and everything, fantastic set. Mostly the special effects, the shot of the Doctor looking at the London Eye and coming back. I love that kind of cinematography, and the long continuous Doctor and Rose scene as they're walking along, just chatting about things. And that's like one long take. I really like that. So just how the episodes kind of all put together. It's my other positive.
The technical aspects that most people don't notice when they're watching a TV show. Yeah, that also goes well with the Murray Gold soundtrack, which is what we hear the first time, which became a staple of Doctor Who for most of its New Who run, bar the newest season.
Yeah,
I feel that some of his themes in this are pretty good, especially some of the Doctor hints that we get towards that eventually build throughout the season are pretty decent as well. And then negatives. And people that know me know this. I don't like Rose. So we'll start off with on a positive foot with the negatives. I did used to like her when I was younger. When I first watched the show, she was one of my favorite companions. But growing up, I just don't like her. I don't like how she treats her family, or how she just ditches Mickey at the end. She seems very sort of self-centered. I mean, you might have a different opinion than me.
I think I like her more than you do,
Hmm.
but I do agree with her treatment of Jackie and Mickey in this one, particularly the last scene. I mean, I don't blame her at all for going with the Doctor. The way she handled it, I think, was poor.
Yeah, because she just, this is a man that's just been kidnapped by some aliens. The copy's been made of him. He's been trapped in that cellar for however long, and then he's been transported in a ship that's disappeared somewhere and reappeared somewhere else. He's clearly shaken and horrified, and then she just ditches him.
Thanks for what? Exactly. I mean, come on, like twist the knife and then leave him, and then you're gone for a year and he's framed for your murder.
That's it. A few episodes later, we see how much worse it gets for Mickey after that.
Yeah, and Jackie's like on the phone to her, all panicked, like, Rose, don't go outside, and she like laughs and hangs up. I'm like, come on, just say I'm okay.
My mum almost got killed. What? But yeah. So I think Rose, she's better in season 2, but I think that's because Mickey and Jackie get better in season 2 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it makes her look less bad because they're not, they're not people that they can be their own people, whereas you felt they were relying on Rose and she ditched them.
Yeah.
So I think that Rose, what I put here is, he's my boyfriend in one scene, which is when the head melts, and then the next minute she ditches him.
Yeah, when she thinks he's dead, she kind of just shrugs off very quickly.
Yeah. Well, but then she's all caring like, oh my god, where is he, kind of thing. That's my boyfriend and his head just melted. How dare you? And then she leaves him, and it's like you only use him to get what you want, to make people feel other things. And I can't remember if it's explored any better in the Target book, but throughout this season, even towards the end, in the finale when she leaves again, Mickey then finally realizes, hang on a minute, she doesn't care about me. Why am I even bothering? And then, I did put Mickey on my bad list as well, just because he's not the best person either, like you mentioned.
I love how one of your positives is plastic Mickey, and then one of your negatives is actual Mickey. Poor Mickey.
I mean, like, he's not the worst person ever in the show, but he's just a bit. Well, I guess him and Rose kind of are good for each other because he doesn't really show care to her, when she almost dies, like you mentioned. But then at the same time, you sort of see why he might not, because she just sort of leaves him.
Yeah.
But they clearly have a relationship where it was just the two people in the right place in the right time, and they settled for each other, really.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a decent relationship that just was never meant to last very long.
No. I mean, Mickey does get better, like we said, in series 2 especially, he gets a much more developed character arc.
Yeah, by the end of season 2, I think Mickey's fantastic.
Yeah, but then in this, I think, but then again, his if we look at it from a writing point of view, his whole point in this episode is to be not this, part of the reason.
Yeah, I don't think they accidentally made him,
no,
Mickey.
Yeah, he did, that was the intention, I guess. Yeah, what other negatives did you have, if any?
While we did praise a few of Murray Gold's soundtracks, my only legitimate complaint I kind of have with this one is some of the music at times felt very weird tonally. I feel like that one gets used all the time, and it just took me out of some scenes. My two main examples are the Doctor's like, Wilson's dead. Then it goes, I'm like, what the hell? And then when he like shoots the cork into plastic Mickey and spits it out and goes, like really, I was like, that's a bit silly. There's just a few times that it felt a bit off for me and took me out of it a bit. But again, that's not the entire soundtrack for the episode. Most of it's really good, and that is the only like actual complaint I had when I was watching it.
Yeah, I'd say because I don't know how much work Murray Gold had done before this, but I know that obviously he spent a lot of time with Doctor Who. So this is his first episode with the show. So I can forgive sort of moments that might seem off because it gets much better moving forwards.
Yeah, they were still working out exactly what the show was going to be, I think, at this point. So.
Yeah, so I can forgive most of that, but yeah, this is a valid criticism, and it's more in depth than what I've got, which includes Jackie's tracksuit denim jacket combo, which popped into my head.
Wow, you really were stuck for ideas, weren't you?
It was like the last minute. It was when Rose was on the phone to her mum, and it was like a wide shot of Jackie, and I went, "Why would you have gone out in that?" Like, you know, I get it.
I mean, you're doing bloody well if that's a criticism of a 45-minute episode, I guess.
I know it's supposed to show that, you know, she's from a council estate, and that you know, and that they don't have loads of money, hence why it's this kind of outfit. But it just caught my eye, and I thought, what? But maybe on more of a story point is they say, you know, oh, all plastic could be affected by this, but then only the shop window dummies come alive.
I think that is like a budget thing, isn't it? Because in the novelization, there's a lot of different things going on. In particular, the one I love from the novel, and if you haven't read that, do get it, and it's really cool. Is when it's like the people are supposed to be like performers on the streets of London and stuff, and you think they're living statues, but some of them are actually plastic ones, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah, but yeah, and I mean, I would have forgiven it a bit more if before it happened, Rose didn't list off what could come alive. They're like, oh,
breast implants. Just a scene of everyone's breast implants go everywhere.
Well, I mean, you know, that's something for Torchwood, but
that's true. God, that is a missed opportunity, isn't it?
But like, you know, I don't know. I would have maybe liked to have seen, because you could do other things. There's plastic in mobile phones. You could have had somebody not being able to take their phone, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
But I get it's a budget thing, and the villains still look good, even if they do take their sweet ass time to kill Jackie.
Yeah.
I did put in my list of things saying, how does Jackie not die? Because you know, Clive is like the first one to notice these autons, and he does stand there and look at them for a good while before they end up shooting him. But you know, they can only fire one shot every like 10 seconds. So as soon as that hand comes down, you should be running for the door. But and this is a time where you can see that Jackie has major plot armor, because there are 3 brides there, and they wait until all 3 of their hands are down before they shoot.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's other instances where she's running out of the shop, everyone else is gone, and it's only the autons behind her. None of them think to shoot, because they are shooting when she runs away. But
yeah,
what can you do? I don't know. If her mum, like, because her mum being alive didn't make Rose stay. So
no,
it's not like no matter what happened to Jackie, it wouldn't have affected Rose's decision, I don't think. But at the same time, I really enjoy seeing public reaction to alien invasions.
Yeah.
Because I think we lost a bit of that with Stephen Moffat. We didn't get as much, here's the impact on the real world.
Yeah.
A lot with Russell T Davies.
Yeah, I think Chibnall kind of does it a bit as well. Not as much to the extent, but I think there is some of that, particularly in like Revolution of the Daleks and stuff. We've got glimpses of it.
Yeah, because, you know, I like to see, although it's only the one shopping mall, I do like to see the fact that other people are running scared. You know, all of a sudden the bus is on fire within the space of 2 minutes. So it's good to see the real world impact on these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, my final sort of negative is anti-plastic.
That's one of mine as well.
Yeah. They have to resolve it somehow, I get that, but anti-plastic's a bit weak.
Yeah, I think if like they'd made it in the TARDIS with Nikki's head or something, and that's how they got it, if they just shown the process of them like making it or discovering it or something, I think then it would have worked a bit more. But it was just like, well, yes, we need to use this now. Do your thing, Rose.
Yeah, he's like anti-plastic. She's like anti-plastic, anti-plastic, and that's it. That's it. That's the extent of your explanation. It could have been good that it's just a quick line from Doctor saying, I don't know, something like, "Oh, it dissolves plastic" or something. I don't know. But anti-plastic is a very, very good ex machina, I guess.
Yeah.
And then sort of on the antiplastic, I put in a note saying, Rose murders the Nestine. Because she does. Rose kills someone. Something. A sentient being, Rose kills. In the first episode. With her, what is it? School level gymnastics.
Yeah, she got the bronze or something at school.
Yeah. I get it. Again, it's another thing that's supposed to make you relate to the companion. She hasn't got qualifications. She's not the smartest person ever. You don't need to be smart to have these kinds of adventures type thing.
I can't relate to her though because I can't climb a rope.
That's the other thing. Good.
I suppose it's good foreshadowing of her and the empty child, I guess. Why she can hold on for so long.
Yeah, I guess if you want to push it that far, I guess.
So that's such a fun sequence. I don't want to take this out of that when it comes to it. But,
yeah. But yeah, again, it's a good resolution of it, and then it's a very, very quick end, and I think that's something that Doctor Who's kept doing a lot recently in the books. It's, oh my god, big alien, big threat, and then all of a sudden it's done, solved, and then it's ended.
Yeah.
But I think that's a Doctor Who thing in general. But again,
yeah, that kind of tied into one of mine as well. Like you already mentioned the anti-plastic solution. I feel like it felt a bit cheap because we didn't get much explanation about it. And tied into that, I remembered the Auton attack itself being a lot longer. It's actually over very quick. It's like a minute, and then they stop it. And I was like, oh. And so I was slightly underwhelmed by that, but we still got a few cool sequences in it.
Yeah,
and that kind of just tied into the whole. They needed to get rid of the enemy and then wrap things up. Still have a bit of time for that.
And then tease what's let's go and look outside.
Yeah, but I can kind of get over that because it's still kind of cool. And then the last kind of negative, these are true nitpicks. Just some of the characters being stupid. So the whole, why the hell did Rose not know Plastic Mickey wasn't her boyfriend? Why, when the shop exploded, why did she even bother taking the arm with her all the way home anyway? And any normal person would have just thrown it out as soon as she left. And then how she treated Jackie and Mickey at the end. But again, those are nitpicks I can just get over.
I was just thinking, didn't the arm get thrown in the bin and then come back? But no, she did take it home first. Mickey took
it home and then got Mickey to get rid of it.
Yeah. Because again, that's a good scene when the cat flaps going and it's the Doctor on the other side. I think that's a good meet cute. That's arguably better than the first, but it shows the two aspects of the Doctor: the serious one and the sort of calm, charming, funny one. And
There's a strange man in my bedroom.
Yeah,
I love that bit. I think that will never not make me laugh. His delivery of so good.
There's a man in my bedroom. Yes, there is. Anything could happen. No.
Amazing. That's when she decided, I'm going to hate you for so long.
But then I thought about that. Then I thought about how does that work? What happens when Rose says, "Do you want a tea?" and she gets no answer and she goes back to the door? Is that a normal occurrence in the Tyler household? There's just that window into that time of life, and I don't want to look any further.
What happened to the cat? They mentioned having a cat once. What happened to it? Was it killed by an Auton?
I wouldn't be surprised. But I did put in my notes, Jackie's flirting. A good point. I guess sort of towards, they were all my negatives, I guess. There wasn't that many, as you could tell, with Jackie's tracksuit. I was, really scraping the barrel with some of these.
That is incredible. That's one of your criticisms.
I noticed it and I thought, that's terrible. I need to mention it.
If it annoys you, it annoys you. That's fair enough.
But and then moving forwards from this episode, in this one we do get some hints towards what's to come and what has happened that can be explored. Obviously, it includes, the Time War. The first mentions of what happened in that, because obviously before this we didn't know what happened. We had the Eighth Doctor movie in America in '96, I think it was.
96, yeah.
And that went down badly. So I think for a long time that wasn't really considered canon. And then it comes back, and to explain the length of time being away, it's the Time War. And I'm glad that we get more of that in the future. And even the Shadow Proclamation being mentioned, I think, is a good way to expand the universe without shoving it down your throat.
Yeah, because that gets mentioned a lot, doesn't it? And then they show it in Series 4.
Yeah, well, that's it. You know, it's these slight hints towards things. Even with the Time War, we don't really see until, well, really until Day of the Doctor, maybe.
That's when we properly see it, yeah. Obviously, we get like glimpses of how the Time Lords were during it in the End of Time, but we don't properly see it until Day of the Doctor.
Yeah, so I mean, it does set up these good things. It lays a solid foundation for what New Who would go on to be for the next 16 years. Yeah, so I guess sort of to finish up, how would you rate Rose as an episode? I guess we'll start with as an episode by itself. If it was just in the middle of a season, how would you think?
Are we doing like an out of 10 kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'd give it a solid 8.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. But would it be the same rating if it was a season opener anyway, or is it better if it's an opener?
It's a good question. Comparing to other openers. As like an opener, I think it's pretty decent because it doesn't focus on too many characters, which probably helps it. And it could end up being like 5 minutes longer, I think, just to extend the attack and rounding up characters at the end.
Yeah.
I think maybe as an open, maybe like a 7. But maybe it's like the nostalgia of it and the fact that it still holds up after 16 years, which is bloody impressive, really.
Yeah.
I think I'd give it an 8. Maybe like an average of 7.5 would be like my final thing.
Yeah. I'd say I'd probably have to agree with you because I don't think it's definitely not the best episode of Series 1, but it's definitely not the worst. And as a season opener and as the start of this new era of Doctor Who, I think it did as we can see, it did a pretty successful job of getting new people hooked.
Yeah.
So I think it set out what it wanted to do. It shows off the two different sides of the Doctor. It sets things up well for what's to come.
And because it's so well paced, it's just such an easy watch. I had such a fun time just watching it. You know, it wasn't boring, which I think is the most criminal offence an episode of Doctor Who can be, considering what the show's about and what you can do with it. I hate boring episodes more than bad episodes, really, and it certainly isn't that. So yeah.
I guess we'll sort of end it there because we don't want to go on too much for what we want to do in the future. But yeah, hopefully people enjoyed this. This is my first foray into actually creating content and editing things together. So let's see if this works out very well. The thing that I do that isn't university work, which was previously on this channel. But yeah, so hopefully people liked it. If you did like it, obviously subscribe. I'm going to link Liam's channel as well because he does many daily reviews of a variety of different shows. Just please don't go and yell at him about them.
Please don't.
I'll also link our 2 Twitters down below. I don't know if Liam is a request to follow or not at the minute, but you might if you
not a minute. But who knows? Things can change if you start sending me hate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll link them both down below, and then hopefully, I'd like to do this weekly if we both can. So hopefully we'll be back next week with the Unquiet Dead, the end of the world. They're basically, you can put them either way around.
I mean, yes.
Like, there's no way, you could watch.
Actually, I think you'll find that's episode 3.
Yeah. So, which tells you which one I prefer, I guess, compared to which one I remembered.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll be back with the end of the world, and Lady Cassandra, and Satellite. It's not Satellite 5 this time, is it? It's
Platform 1.
Something in it. Platform 1. That's it.
Something like that.
There we go. Right, well, we successfully talked Doctor Who, and then we ruined it at the end.
Hooray!
But
you can cut that out, it's fine.
Yeah, maybe I will. I'll expose my flaws. Yeah, that's it, everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
May I suggest, with the greatest respect, that you shunt off?